Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Flex and Joe. I'm back with another trade recap and review. Today I hit a massive NQ trade, really sniping the top and capturing 125 points on the runner, $2,500 per contract. I did have two contracts because this was actually copied across two accounts on the Apex trade copier. So let's get into this trade review. All right, so let's start today's trade review by looking at Thinkorswim. So Thinkorswim is where I do all of my charting, and I just execute trades on Ninja. I don't do any charting on Ninja at all. So I'm always looking at Thinkorswim, I'm always watching it, and I'm always taking my trades on Ninja based off of what I see. So one of the things I talked about on X last week was in some of those tweets, posts, whatever they're called now, Zeets, I don't know, on X. I talked about how I was looking back at how we interacted with an old VWAP where like VWAP ended, right? So here's an example where VWAP ended way away from the price action because there was such a big push up over here. And you can see that we haven't interacted with that level yet, right? So this is today. Nothing, no interactions yet, right? But a couple times last week, we actually had really good interactions with old VWAP. So you see where there was this one here, right in pre-market, and just bounced right off of that. And that was basically the low of the day. There was also this one right here, where on 813, right, and then 814, you actually had only 11-point wick through. Let me get zoomed in. So there it is, the ends of VWAP. And then we actually, yeah, so 25.5, about 34, let's say. So less than 10 points, honestly. And I wouldn't just arbitrarily put an order there or slap it, but 10-point risk is not uncommon on NQ trades, and it's also really not that much considering what the reward was, because this put in the low here, the candle closed there, and you had two more successive like strong candles before you got into anything that might throw you off, and this is VWAP. So if you look at this move, from, let's say, we want to say right off of the level all the way up to here, that's 137 points. Okay, so pretty massive trade. And you don't have to necessarily capture all of that or capture that on maybe just your runner, but there really wasn't much of a reason for you to even consider stopping, as this would have only been about 11-point pullback. So it definitely held it with a VWAP target. You get all out on VWAP, and maybe you capture 20 points, 100, even 110 points. Fantastic trade all day. And if you have the appetite, the risk appetite, and you're able to hold, right, and you actually did get in over here, and you held that all the way to the top, let's just say you gave back some, you could have easily caught over 200 points. So I saw these in my back testing and thought, wow, this really is like an opportunity to catch a home run trade. I don't trade for home runs. I take a lot of base hit trades, right? And as a matter of fact, I want to just go back to that, this first, the Ninja Trader chart, where you see my executions here. Like I took the first trade off for 10 points. That's my typical base hit trade. I typically lock in $200 on one con, and then I will continue to the trade, right? If I have more cons, I might take it at 20 points, etc. But I strive to hit base hit trades because those base hits add up. If you strive to always hit home run trades, you're going to strike out a lot. Just ask Babe Ruth, right? Everybody remembers him for his home runs, but he also held the record strikeouts, right? And I'm not trying to do that in the market with money. So now, if we get into today's trade, what I want to stress is how I found this level, right? So bear with me for a minute. I'm sorry if you get motion sick, just kind of like look away. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll all the way to the left. And what you see here is a big void. There's nothing. There's no price action. There's just nothing here. It's nothing until you get to right there. And right there is where VWAP ended. So my studying from last week prompted me to look for old areas where VWAP has ended, but it hasn't been interacted with. And that's how I arrived at this level. So going into this week, I had this level pre-drawn on my chart, and I was looking for it yesterday. One of the other trades I was looking for yesterday was right through here as well. And we hit this level perfectly, like one tick off. And this is the 4 p.m. market close. And the reason I had such an interest in those two levels on this day is because then there was a gap down. And then we just continued to move lower, like way lower, right? And so when the market pukes away like that, you know, what I call, or what many people call, you know, a gap and crap, right? Because it gapped down and continued to crap out on you if you're a bull. When the market moves away like that, I'm really interested in the levels in the area that it came from as a potential area for people to either take profit or, you know, if they're stuck, you know, neutralize their position, right? But get out by break even. So that's where I found that level. And we go back to where today is, and boom, there it is, right? So now this is it on the 10-minute chart. And as you can see on the 10-minute chart, it moved very quickly and I got out here. Biggest reason for me to get out here has to do with the Apex 30% rule. I have been denied payouts for the 30% rule before. It hasn't happened in months. I don't want it to start happening, and I don't want to have to worry about it, right? But I know that if I cap my 250K accounts at about $2,700 a day, I'm not really going to have to worry about the 30% rule for a while. And this also, these two accounts that were copied together, they haven't received a payout yet. They're newer, and so I really only need like one more day on them, and this was just like throwing them way over the threshold, and I don't want to have to worry about the finish line moving on me and then having to continue to trade the account and add more and add more. And that makes sense. So again, my entry's there. I take my first one off for 10 points, right? And I'll show you what I did and how I managed my stop. So here we are on the 2-minute chart. It's the same thing. When I was looking for the entry, right, I saw that we wicked up through this level and we closed below. Also saw that at the time of this candle, we were significantly extended from our 2-minute EMAs, which means we are even further from, ready, we'll look, 5, right? 5-minute EMAs, we're very far extended, as well as the 10-minute EMAs, right? So when you have this 10-minute candle, at one point, we were green all the way up here, and look where the 10-minute EMA is, right? That's nearly 100 points away. So that we are back on the 2-minute chart. Come on. Okay, so back on the 2-minute chart. This is where I was really looking at these candles, right? So I saw the rejection. I saw that the seller stepped in, and I was like, okay, like, you know, there is action there. There's a reaction there, but I'm waiting to see it. Is it strong enough? And then on this candle, you had this sort of move down, came back up, right? And I thought, I'm not so sure, right? So what happened is I waited, and when this candle pushed up, right? This candle pushes up, and then it sort of double tops here. Once it started to come back down, that's when I was like, okay, I'm accepting this risk. I'm just going to get in. I'm going to risk 6 points, right? And by risking the 6 points, I know I'm risking just over high of day. If it turns from here, it'll be a small loss, and I don't want to be in short if we break high of day again anyways, but I think that there's a good chance because we are EMA extended, so it's kind of like a mean reversion type thing. We hit that VWAP level that I've been marking, and also I have noticed that from time to time, especially on a very large move, there is oftentimes a rejection at the 80 level. So been kind of watching, you know, at every 20, right? And this is just what I saw. So just like we saw a little bit of rejection right here at the 40s level, the 40s level went back to 20 and then it went right back up. So like sort of a 20-point flip and then push. I'm still working on ironing out like all of that logic, but you can see the market kind of moves, you know, in a little bit of like waves and pulses, right? So seeing that 80s rejection there, and we did go down, we already had that 20-point down to 60. You know, when I saw it again, that's what I was really hoping we were going to get down below. So I enter, doesn't take very long. I get my first scale. All right. And then at that point, the price continues to move down away from it, and it starts to move relatively quickly. So I'll grab my stop here so you guys can see originally 6-point risk. So what happened is after we hit this first, scale 1 take profit, and we broke the low of this candle, my stop was just a little bit above break even. And then once we were, so here's my stop. Once we got down to here, and at this point, I'm up 25 points. I'm not giving back $500, right? My stop goes to where I scaled my first one. It actually goes a little bit beyond it. So now I'm going to get a little bit more than my first scale, which I'm always happy with, right? At the end of the day, if I had stopped out right here, I would have made $440 on this trade, risking, about 240, so a little bit less than 2 to 1. But it's fine, right? Like this is, it all averages out. So It continued to move down. We moved down further, right? I waited. At this point, you know, when it's at 47, my stop is at 64, and I'm thinking, no, like I'm gonna move it down to 62. I want to just kind of trail it by 15 points. So I start just trailing my stop by 15 points, and that's just like what I did the whole way down, like trailing my stop. At one point, you know, I did have to just double check the math. So like I let go of my stop and left it like if it takes it here, it's fine. And I just made sure that this was the right exact area for me to get, you know, $2,700 or so on this. That's just the area I've been shooting for. There's not like a huge scientific reason, you know, it's not like written in the stars or like handed down from, you know, like Socrates or something crazy. It's just like where I'm doing the math and figuring it all out. And basically, you know, I'm trying to get the accounts right on a 250K account. You have to be at 256,000, I think 600 in order to, yeah, because you have to erase the trailing drawdown. So you have to be there in order to be able to request a 3K payout. So I've been trying to get the accounts to 260,000, right? So the reason I shoot for 260,000 is that it actually allows me to be 3K over the payout threshold. So then it's a lot easier, like the second go, in order to like get it back to 260, you need to make less per day. And you could even have more losing days if your winning days are pretty good. And so it's an easier target to get to be able to take your next 3K, right? And of course, if I have a string of great days and a string of trades like this, well, then it just, you know, okay, I'd rather be way over the goal, but 260K is the goal. So now explaining this logic, at 260K, you know, this is about a $2,700 trade, right? As I said, it came out to be 2697.06 on one account and 2691.64 another account. Obviously, the copier was a little bit off, something like that, right? Anyways, under 2,700, we'll round up 2,700. So 2,700, you know, divided by the 30% rule. You can't be over the 30% rule, so I'm shooting for the 29% rule. So we're going to divide that by 0.29, right? And it gives you $9,300. That means my account needs to get to $259,300. So my $260,000 goal, even if I fall a little bit short of it, is still fine. It's going to keep me covered, and I'm still going to get my payout. Again, having a payout denied after working as hard as we work in the market is soul crushing a little bit. We survive, but like it sucks. Okay, so this allows me to generate some consistency and just have a system. The other thing it's really helping me with too is a lot of times I find that I would sometimes give back a little bit too much on the runner, and you know, I wouldn't really have like a where should I take this off? So it helps me with that. I liked how this all lined up here because we obviously had broken through VWAP a couple times already, right? I wasn't worried about the price target, you know, at its max being too far past VWAP. You know, this is what I call the belly button, is the middle of the 30-minute orb, right? So middle of the body, especially on an orb range day, sometimes the candle body will fit like right into the orb. So it's just kind of like middle of the body, belly button. I don't know why I call it that, but it's funny, whatever. It's also the 10-minute 50 EMA area, right? So you can see it's a 2-minute 200, but if we go to the 10-minute chart, you'll see it's a little bit above the 10-minute 50. So it's 10-minute like 34 area, right? But in this 34.50, you can see how, although there was this crazy wick, but like there was a lot of buying here, here, and here. So I just felt like it all lined up well enough that like, hey, this might hit. And if it doesn't, I'm only going to give back 300 points. Either way, the account was going to be done. 300 points, $300. Either way, the account was going to be done. The two accounts that were copied, they were going to be done after this trade, right? Because, you know, I'm that close to max. Like I don't need to push it and try to make another couple $100. So that's the trade review. That's the logic behind it. That's the logic behind the entry, the logic behind how I, took the trade, trailed my stop, and where I got all out, right? And so just loosely keeping it going. And honestly, starting to feel, and this is a good way too to try to tell you that it might be time for you to think about getting out of the trade, is that like starting to feel like kind of like euphoric, like holy smokes, this thing is really moving, right? So hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, hit me up down below, like, subscribe, you know, the whole deal. And I'll come back with trade recap / EDU type videos for you guys. If you need anything or you have any suggestions for a video, let me know that too in the comments. Thank you.